Hey guys, this is Tisa, owner of Birmingham REI, owner and founder. I want to come on today and talk to out of state investors and property owners, okay? I want to talk about keeping an eye on your investment, okay? Why that is so important. I'm give you a couple tips on how to do that, but also I'm going to include a couple of stories that pretty much explain to you why and give you evidence why it's so important to do this, okay? The first thing is checking on your property with your own eyes. Go in person, put your feet on the ground and go in person to see this property, whether you live out of state or you live in another county, another town, and you don't have the time to do it, right? Please make the time, right? Because it's so important. You've put your money into obtaining this property. Please make the time. Make the time to go and see it with your own eyes. If you can't see it with your own eyes, then okay, pay somebody else to do it, but you got to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your property. It's so important, okay? Um, Another thing, right? Don't wait 6 months or a year to visit. Visit often. I'm not saying to hound your tenants. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is you want to keep an eye on your property. Don't just buy the property, put somebody, like if it's a house, put somebody in it and just go away. Don't do that. Please go and see it, okay? And I'm not telling you to hound your tenants. Please don't, because you want to have a really good relationship with your tenants, right? But what I'm saying is that you want to drive by. You want to see. You want to physically see your property, okay? If it's land, go see your property. Go walk through your property. I don't care how small, how big, if you got to get, you know, a backhoe and ride on the property, if you got to get a four-wheeler and go out there on your property, do that. It's worth it. It's yours. It's worth it. You want to do that, okay? If the house is vacant, go see it anyway. I know some people think, well, hey, I boarded up, so it's fine. No, you need to go and see it, okay? And I'm going to give an example. I had someone call my business, contact my business and say, hey, they had a property they wanted to sell. And of course, I explained to them what we do. We're wholesalers. And so she said, okay, that's fine. It was two sisters that both live out of state, both live in different states. Okay. I go, she gave me the address, so I go see the property. And thankfully, the person that was actually living there, and keep in mind, this property was supposed to be vacant. Thankfully, they were not there. But the neighbor come driving by. The actual next door neighbor, and tells me the guy who's living in there, that is a guy living in there, what his name was. He was fixing up the house and everything. Everything. And they thought this house was empty. It was passed down to them from their granddad. And so they thought, well, hey, the relatives here in Alabama had taken care of it, boarded up, nobody's there. Yeah, somebody's there. It was living in it, right? And they didn't know anything about it. So now they got to get that person out, hopefully, before they sell it. Another thing is I contacted somebody on Facebook Marketplace because we were looking for a rental property to buy. Go see, and was super excited to go see it because it was going to be the first rental house for us. Go see the house. The house was burned, like not livable at all. The seller, property owner, didn't know anything about it. I talked to the neighbor. Neighbor told me when it happened. It happened a couple of days prior, I think, because it was the same week. Because the house was still smoking, and the property owner didn't know anything about it. So I just shared those stories to say, please keep an eye on what belongs to you. It's your investment. It's super important to do that, okay? And don't just assume that somebody's going to let you know if something happened. If you don't have any close contacts within that neighborhood, I'm saying if you have a property manager, in addition to the property management company, please have some neighbors, somebody that live right next door, right across the street, that got eyes on your property. Exchange contact information with that person, okay? Say, hey, do you mind giving me a call? Just to let me know periodically you see something going on with my property, something happened. Or you call them and say, hey, what's going on? How you doing, Miss So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so? I'm just calling, check out my property. It's just simple as that. Okay. All right, so I already talked about you want to make sure you go into the community and visit the neighbors, all right? Visit at different times of the day and night, okay? You'd be amazed at what you learn just simply by doing that, okay? Another reason why you should not be an absentee property owner. You want to know what's going on in that community. A lot of that impacts the value of your property. I've watched communities increase in value. Like you hear a lot of times, oh, this is an up and coming neighborhood, up and coming. But of course, there's always the opposite to that, right? So somewhere there's a community that's just kind of going downhill. Well, you want to know that as an investor because your money is tied up in this property. So you want to know, is it stable? Right? Like when you bought it, if it was a pretty nice community, are they keeping the grass up? Are they keeping up, the community? You want to know that. You want to know the surrounding community. You want to know what's going on. You want to put your eyes on it, okay? Because that may impact your decision to keep the property, right? Or you may say, hey, it's time for me to sell. Whether it's the value is increasing or decreasing, you may say, hey, I want to come out on top. I want to sell it right now because, man, I see all this growth going on around here. It's steadily increasing in value. This time for me to make my move, and instead of just having this property here, I'm going to buy two, right? So you want to make sure you put your boots on the ground and go, okay? Like I seriously bought boots just to do this business because you want to have something on your feet and get on the ground and go and see for yourself. Okay. Another thing, and I'm gonna keep talking about these neighbors because it's important. Okay. Ask the neighbors about the community. When you go, ask them what's going on. I believe in spending time talking to your neighbors, right? Because they are your neighbors. That's your property. Now, you may not live there. You may have a tenant there. It may be vacant. It may just be land. Ask your neighbors what's going on, okay? It's important for you to know. In addition to, you may see new businesses coming in town, all that kind of stuff. But ask the neighbors because they're going to tell you what's going on, okay? Especially the ones that's retired. They know everything going on in that community. They're going to tell you. It's important for you to know. Okay. The public services in the community, all of that matters, all right? When you think about police, fire, emergency services, garbage pickup, all of that impacts the value of your property. If you have tenants you have rental houses, right? And you want to have good tenants, you need to have good emergency services. You need to have services that, if they were picking up the trash when you bought that house, you want to know if they didn't stop picking up that trash, right? Because nobody wants to live in a community where it's dirty, okay? If you're charging a certain amount, or really any rent, because that's just basic services, but if you're charging a certain amount, especially a premium amount, but your tenant can't get basic services, how are you going to keep good tenants? And that impacts your bottom line. That impacts your return on investment. Because every time you got to turn that house over, you're losing money. Every time that house is sitting empty, you are losing money. Especially if you have a mortgage on that property. Because that's money coming out your pocket. You're not earning. You're actually just paying out. That's a problem. Okay? So you want to know that. I've watched this communities lose they fire department. I've watched it. Just as sure as I saw, and I mean, in one of them that's coming to mind, one of the communities in the cities that's coming to mind, I saw the rise, and I'm watching the fall of it. I mean, the city is almost bankrupt. So those are things that you need to keep in mind. Don't think that, okay, just because I bought at a time when the community was really doing well, is very nice, it's settled, it's quiet, it's this, it's that. Or the opposite of that, you bought in a city center, everything's going on, it has a lot of new business and all of that. If these last 2 years haven't taught us anything, it's taught us that things change. And things can change quickly. So that's why it's important for you to put your eyes on your property. Okay? Alrighty. What else? I'm just checking my notes to make sure I went over it all. Alright. And I think I already said that about exchanging the contact information with the neighbors. Want to make sure you do that, just to make sure that you're keeping an eye, and somebody's keeping an eye on that property for you. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's a rental house, whether it's empty, or you got somebody in it, or if it's land. All right, because people can move into your house and then say, hey, they didn't come for years, so it's mine now. They could move on your land and say, hey, I haven't seen anybody for years. I've been using it all these years. The neighbors may want to start using your land. And they done put something on, I've seen this stuff. And they done put something on your property and you never came to say, hey, get that off my property, right? You need to do that. You got to know. These are things to consider. These are things to, when you're doing your due diligence, right? These are things to keep in mind, right? You make the time to go and see your property. It's important. It's yours. It's your investment. Get out there and see it. Just because the laws are what they are. Let me just say that. So you need to know what the laws are when it comes, I think it's adverse possession. I'm not sure. You can do your own Googles on that. But you want to make sure nobody's living on your land. You want to make sure nobody's using your land to park cars, to park whatever. See, that could be a business for you. If you just have, let's just say, just a lot. You can park it and charge people to park their trucks there. And I'm going to do a separate video on uses of land. But those are just some things to keep in mind, because you don't want people using your property without your permission. So please, whatever you got to do, make time to get out and see your property, whether it's land, whether it's a vacant house, or if it's you got a renter in it. You need to make sure to do that. And I'm not saying harass your tenants. You want to have a good relationship with them. What I'm saying is that you yourself want to put your own eyes on what you have put your blood, sweat, and tears in. Okay. Thank you all so much. I also want to mention too that yes, I do have a course coming up on how to start investing for the price of a wig, and that's basically I'm just gonna talk you through and show you how you can get started buying property tax deeds, because that's one of the ways that I bought some of the property that I have now is through property tax deeds. So if you're interested, check out the link in the description of this video. If you're interested in the wholesaling, okay, because I did mention that that's one of the ways that I got into real estate was through wholesaling, by learning from Max Maxwell and House Buying Brian. That's one of the ways I got into it, and I learned it, pretty quickly from them. So if you're interested, then I'm going to include the link to my website, and you can hit me up on my website. All right, and that's it for today, guys. So thank you so much for watching my video. I hope it is helpful to many of you. Thank you. Have a great day.